Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, which, of course, is the 19th of September. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome to the show. Your podcast tonight will be focusing on all the latest news from around the world, as well as topical discussions on some of the week's biggest headlines. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers to round up all the latest news from the last week. Hello, Zach.
Hi, hello there.
Yeah. Now, Zach, I want to start off with the hot headlines now on the show. The Prime Minister's winter COVID plan was unveiled last week. Plenty to say about will Britain be open over the winter? And Zach, what did you take away from Boris Johnson's address to the nation on Tuesday last week?
What did I take? Well, I think the main headline I took away from that, Charlie, was don't expect another lockdown again. That's what I'm saying on that one. Don't expect another lockdown or even potential for another lockdown, despite the fact that the Prime Minister had it in the back of the pocket. Because if you saw from the the COVID winter plan, that is very, very unlikely. They've talked about obviously advertisement, managing risk, obviously testing. Also, interestingly as well, PCRs scrapped for flights, go to lateral flows. They're the sort of thing they've been talking about. They've also talked about vaccinations. This week, we had the 12 to 15-year-old announcements for COVID jabs from the chief medical officers. It was unilaterally agreed by the chief medical officers, by the way. You may remember the JCVI sort of not recommending it, although they did refer it to the chief medical officers. They've decided to go ahead with that, basically. So let me just go through, actually, what has actually been mentioned, what is on here as well. And if we look through here as well, Plan B, this is one thing that could happen if Plan A doesn't go to work. It includes very key features, communicating clearly about the risk, mandating vaccine over COVID status certification. Now, we've heard this one before. We heard it was scrapped.
Yeah.
Then it's still back on the table. Then it was going to be introduced this month, but then it got scrapped. Now they're talking about still being on the table. So this is a very back pocket. And the last one, which I do actually agree with, legally mandating face coverings in certain settings. So that's possible. No mention in a lockdown, only of us considering people to work from home for limited people, if possible. So, yeah, no mention really of a lockdown. I can't see it happening personally.
No, neither can I either.
Personally going to be the case of slightly extra measures, and that's it personally, in my opinion. But this is normally the next couple of months is going to be crucial because if you think about it, we are coming to the flu season. We are now coming to COVID, where COVID shines as well. It's the winter. And at this stage, compared to last season, it's a little bit worse than what it was if it turns about the amount of cases. So, yeah, this is going to be very, very important, I think, Charlie, of what's going to happen here with COVID. Are we going to see a spike? How big is it going to be? Is it going to overwhelm the hospitals? Yeah, that all could happen, really. And this is going to be very crucial, I think, Charlie.
Yeah, whilst I'm here, I'm now going to play for you Boris Johnson's address to the nation on Tuesday as he outlines Plan B of winter COVID measures, saying that COVID measures for Plan B may include home working and the use of face masks. Have a listen to this from the Prime Minister. This was Boris Johnson speaking earlier last week, should I say, at Downing Street.
And we will keep further measures in reserve. Plan B. We do not see the need now to proceed, for instance, with mandatory certification, but will continue to work with the many businesses that are getting ready such a scheme. Indeed, over 200 events have already used COVID certification voluntarily. And it's just not sensible to rule out completely this kind of option now, when we must face the fact that it might still make the difference between keeping businesses open at full capacity or not. We will also keep open the option of mandating face coverings as they have elsewhere, or advising people again to work from home, and reflecting the fact that when you've got a large proportion of the country, as we have now, with immunity, then smaller changes can make a bigger difference and give us the confidence that we don't need to go back to the lockdowns of the past.
Thank you there to Boris Johnson for the announcement on the lockdown here in England. Zach, what did you make of the PM's tone on that issue? Oh, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with Zach at the moment. I'll just get back to... Oh, I muted him, sorry. Zach, what did you make...
I'm unmuted, right. Okay, sorry about that.
What did you make of the Prime Minister's tone on the coronavirus Plan B there?
It was more of a libertarian tone, I think, but it was more of a serious tone as well, Charlie. Sorry, I had to switch the headset. That's probably why you look a bit different. Yeah, it was more of a libertarian sort of tone, but more of a serious. He's obviously the Prime Minister's make it quite clear that COVID is going to be around for quite a while now, and during this winter, and it's going to prop up. He thinks it's going to prop up. I mean, there was talks about 7,000 hospitalisation from SAGE. I know that's your favourite sort of group at the moment, Charlie.
The wokeness of them.
I will disagree with you on that one. Let's just
okay, that's fine.
But
you can go. That's why this podcast is about having the views.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really want people to share their views on this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's clear to me that, the Prime Minister is not going to lock down. He's warning the people of potentially COVID. He knows it's going to be about. So it's just more of a, let's keep you up to date, refresh your mind. This is what might happen, but we ain't going to go totally authoritarian on you. Sort of speech from the Prime Minister. And yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so you can read the article up on the gov.uk/coronavirus. There's actually an article of the winter plan, which includes the likes of Plan B, mandatory masks, and also potentially the return of work from home. But I hope Plan A will be the one we're following, which of course is vaccine boosters for over 50s and also the most vulnerable. Speaking of which, I'm not sure if I'm going to be receiving the booster yet. I'll have to keep an eye on that.
No, nor am I, Charlie. Nor am I. I'm a bit confused on this one because currently it's for over 50s at the moment. But then again, they talked about being into the 1 to 9 groups. So, and I was obviously in the 1 to 9 groups because I managed to get it quite early. So I don't know whether I'm going to be receiving it or not. I hope I do. It doesn't look like it at the moment, but I hope over the time there's more evidence that supports it. Now, obviously, we had the JCVI NHRA meeting with Van Tam, I think, on the Wednesday morning, and they sort of hinted it might not be necessary for the younger people, but I hope so. I would like to see a little booster in my arms because, I like to get, obviously, protection of mine is waning a little bit. After a certain amount of months, it starts waning, and I would like to get that boost, really. It would be nice for me. It's not the end of the world if it don't, but I'd just like to get it. Obviously, it'll have to be either Pfizer or Moderna because that's the only two they're going to be offering. But it does prove in that something. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Hang on a moment, Charlie. I'll just be back in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Pfizer or Moderna will be the only ones they'll offer to the immunocompromised and people who are in that top 9 cohorts.
I just have an ice cream, that's all. Oh, nice sticky ice cream as well. But yes, what it does prove, though, Charlie, is that those with AstraZeneca, and you can only take the Pfizer and Moderna, what it does prove, Charlie, is that mixing vaccines seems to work. That's what the suggestion is. Which is actually good news, actually. And it's very welcome to hear that sort of thing. That, those with AstraZeneca will be offered Pfizer or Moderna. I think that's really good, actually. It just proves that mixing vaccines do actually work. That's the headline out of that, I think.
Mixing vaccines is something they've been developing for ages. So, yeah, it's interesting. I really hope that the mixing of vaccines does work. Obviously, Pfizer and Moderna are offered as the boosters to people, I think, over the age of 50. And and some people, NHS staff as well. I think on Monday, all care home staff had to be jabbed as well. There was some crazy measures going around on that. But yeah, we'll keep you updated with all the latest news on coronavirus. We're going to switch off from COVID now and talk about something that I find very annoying, and that's on the M25 last week. Insulate Britain. The protests for climate change have been taking place. Can I say, Zach, what the hell is this all about? By people blocking the slip road going onto the M25. What do you make of this?
Oh, Charlie, if you think the M25 is bad enough it is every day, I mean, it's horrible as it is every day, then think of all the climate protesters as well. That's going to make it even worse. This is a group called Insulate Britain. Their aims are slightly different to the likes of Extinction Rebellion, is they want all homes insulated with more green energy by a certain date. I think it's by 2025 or something like that they've said. Let me actually look it up. But yeah, they're basically a bunch of climate protesters, and they're using a very interesting tactic that Extinction Rebellion are doing, except on the motorway. Yes, it's to force the government to insulate Britain's leaky homes, starting with social housing. And the group are going down to the M25. They're blocking the slip roads and the main roads, and it's causing chaos. The M25 is bad enough as it is. It's probably one of the worst roads in Britain, and yet we have the pesky lot going on and doing that. If you ask my opinion, I think it's it just puts off. Look, I support climate action, Charlie. Let me just be clear. I support climate action, and I think we need to do more to help it. But goodness me, Charlie, block it when you stop just doing stuff like blocking roads, causing people to miss services. Like someone had a stroke the other day. Needs to pick up a family member, take hospital because they had a stroke, and they got delayed because of these protesters. I mean, it looks like a petty image for these type of people. Unfortunately, it does completely opposite of what they want to achieve. It just causes everyone to turn them off. And whether you think that's legitimate or not to block motorways to get your attention and in a non-violent way, yes, they're non-violent. I'm pleased to think that if you do it in violent, that would be even more off-putting. I'm glad they're non-violent, but it's also put off because it's ruining everyone else's life. I suppose the message is with that is that no, actually, because everyone's lives are going to be ruined. But yeah, it's irritating, I'm afraid. As much as I like the cause that they're trying to put out, the execution it will pee off the normal motorer. As I said, the M25 is probably the worst roads in Britain as it is, Charlie. You don't want to be going around messing with it even more.
Yeah, I know, Zach, and I watched this issue regarding Insulate Britain. I think Kirsty Gallagher, someone calling Kirsty Gallagher on the Great British Breakfast, and this Insulate Britain activist came on the show and got a grilling by both presenters. And I tell you what, Zach, when Simon McCoy and Kirsty Gallagher surely grilled this climate activist, I think they must be thinking, like, surely, are they even telling the truth and actually reporting this to the government?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, it's a good cause of what they're doing for, but the execution is crap. I mean, it will turn off people like Extinction Rebellion. They're just, people are turned off by Extinction Rebellion going around blocking London, the capital. Now you think you're on the M25, probably a more dangerous road than, say, London, for example, Charlie. I would say the M25 is more dangerous than London because there's always problems, there's always accidents. You got, and you're doing this on a extremely busy, much more busier, I say, slip roads compared to London, where you're going much more slower. It causes huge problems. And I don't really justify it. I mean, I know it's non-violent. Yes, I agree. But it's terrible for everyone else that just wants to get on with their lives. On the motors, they're innocent, these people, poor. And they're held up by a bunch of blokes and females that are basically putting sticky tape on their to the road and Insulate Britain. So if I think we Insulate Britain, I think nobody's got a clue at that first. And then you have to realise thinking, oh yeah, we're another one of these climate protesters. Like, yeah, they're serious. I think we need to cover that very well. But yeah, they're to the normal motor. or commuter. They're just a bunch of idiots in the road.
Yes, I have to agree with you. These people should not be going out protesting on the M25. It's dangerous. People are trying to get to places, especially work or hospital appointments. Or I heard the other day there was a kid who was autistic and actually started crying as well. It's horrible. This should never happen on the road. And yeah, I think it's crazy. Please comment down below, guys, what you'd like to say about the Insulate Britain protest. Please let me know down in the comments. Moving on now to the final part of the hot headlines before I move on to do the sports news. And we have the cabinet reshuffle last week for the government. Boris Johnson doing probably his first major cabinet reshuffle since the start of the pandemic. And Zach, some big changes coming to his cabinet with Gavin Williamson being booted out and Nadine Zahawi being promoted to Education Secretary. What do you make of Boris Johnson's new cabinet appointments?
Yes, some major changes to the cabinet, Charlie. This is, as you said, the first big one since, well, when he got into office, really. And there's some very big changes. I mean, very big, Charlie. Let me go through some of them here. I can get them up, actually, on my screen. Here we go. So, Boris, Rishi Sunak stays in a position. Priti Patel, surprisingly, stays in her position as well. There's rumours that she would go. Liz Truss, this is the first major one. She's now Foreign Secretary, replacing Dominic Raab, who's been demoted to Justice Secretary and the Deputy Prime Minister, which is, by the way, the just another fancy name for First Secretary of State. But it's now been titled Deputy Prime Minister. But Liz Truss is the biggest promoter out. This goes from International Trade Secretary to Foreign Secretary, and still Women's Equality Minister, by the way. Stephen Barclay is now replacing Michael Gove as the Chancellor of the Berkshire, Lancaster and Cabinet Officer Minister. Michael Gove has now gone to what is now known as the Department for Levelling Up, Charlie. No longer the Housing Secretary, the Department of Levelling Up Secretary. Would you believe it or not? That's apparently the tacky name. Ben Wallace stays. Amberly Trevelyan is a new International Trade Secretary. You may remember she used to be International Development Secretary before that her role was abolished. Javik stays in Health and Social Care, not surprising. Nadine Zahawi, the new Education Secretary. I'm not sure whether he's staying as a vaccine minister or not. I'm not quite sure. Nadine Dorries is a new Culture Minister, Culture Secretary, and she's got a bit of a controversial past, she has, because you remember she used to call the BBC left wing. And has gone just hates the left. So we'll see what culture wars she starts. So we might as well just call it the Secretary of State for Culture Wars, anything like that. No change to the party, as I said. Gove now housing communities, local government, or as they say, Department for Levelling Up. Treat Coffee in the work and pensions. I'm surprised she's staying in a role, considering the fact she's going to cut £20 off for people in a couple of weeks. Raab, Justice Secretary, that's his new role. A Deputy Prime Minister, would you believe it or not, as well?
Or First Secretary of State, whatever you want to call him.
It's Deputy Prime Minister now, according to the flashy title. We're going to have to throw him with.
Who had that last role? Was that Nick Clegg, I think, had the last role as Deputy Prime Minister?
Yes, it was. It was, I remember very well. And I think John Prescott before that. So Grant Shapps, Transport Secretary, George Eustace, Environment Secretary, no change there, no change to Brandon Lewis or Alistair Jack or Simon Hart. Oliver Dowdy is the new Conservative Party's chairman. He's moved from Culture Secretary to the co-chairman, replacing Amanda Milling's been sacked. Alex Chalmers, COP26, and that's really the main change. Oh, Simon Clarke, Chief Secretary of Treasury, he temporarily resigned early this year, but it's back. Michelle Donnelly is the new Education Minister, and that's about the main
Nick
changes.
Gibbs gone out. Nick Gibbs left the cabinet as well, just to confirm.
And yes, and so by the way, Charlie, so did my local MP John Whittendale, out the Culture Minister. We'll see what happens with that. That's a very big change. Back to the back benches for him. Gavin Williamson, Robert Jenrick, and Robert Buckland were the ones that got sacked totally. I have to say, no surprise that Gavin Williamson's got sacked. I think there was cheers across the whole nation for that. and so probably for Jenrick. But Buckland's sacking was a surprise, when I have to say, Charlie. I did not expect that, but he's back on the back benches. Very interestingly, that's a surprising one. But yeah, so a lot of changes there, Charlie, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, Zach, I have to say. A lot of changes on this cabinet. Obviously, Gavin Williamson's the big one who's gone. Nadeem Zahawi, who used to be, I think, a business minister, I think, at one point, is now
that's correct.
Now in that role. And also, as well, Dominic Raab down to, they've been demoted to Justice Secretary and also Deputy Prime Minister, what do you want to call that? And also, as well, a promotion for Liz Truss goes from International Trade Secretary to Foreign Secretary. Big role, that one, because you have to communicate with a lot of allies worldwide. So hopefully she can do a more executional way of evacuating so British troops from Kabul, all that kind of stuff. I think that's what she's going to be having in mind after Dominic Raab's failures on that. So yes, that's the cabinet reshuffle there, guys. Please comment down below. I'd like to hear what your fantasy cabinet is. Which MPs would you like in your cabinet? And are you happy with the latest changes to the UK government's cabinet as well? But moving on now to sports round, I want to start with the NASCAR action at Bristol for the Bass Pro Shops night race. And I have to say, Zach, I watched the highlights of this race. Kyle Larson taking the win, but there was quite a fiery feud between Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick, who finished in second after both of them clashed just before the end of the race.
Yeah, there was. They had a little bit of a run-in. And they basically decided to do a post-race snuttle-up, basically, and decided to confront each other. Harvick was the one that decided to get the rowdy one, with a lot of heated words. No physical contact until Elliott tipped Harvick's helmet with the hands. And then the shoving began, and they both had to be separated. Basically, what happened with 36 laps to go, Harvick used the lap car of Josh Bilicki to hold up Elliott. Harvick and Elliott dipped low on the track. Only slide back up was the number 4 that hit the left side of Elliott and then took the front spot as well. And yeah, so that's what happened. And it was quite the confrontation as well. I haven't actually watched the confrontation. I've read about it, but it certainly was a bit heated as well. Very, very heated, I have to say, Charlie. Chase Elliott has got into... This is, I think, the second time that Chase Elliott's got in a bit of a spat with another driver, actually. Yeah, because I think, remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Martinsville, where Elliott got into a spat with one of his fellow drivers. Yeah, so it was quite the thing to watch, I think, Charlie. I'm just watching it here. Yeah. Oh, look, yeah, there we go. It was just a bunch of words. I didn't know who wears. Was it Harvick? Harvick wears his helmet when driving. That's interesting. Sorry, he wears his glasses when driving. I didn't know that. I suppose one of the things that I do learn is that you can actually wear glasses when you're driving. That's a good thing. Because I've really because I might have to do Dominic Cummings if I had to do that sort of thing, and test my eyesight if that was the problem. I really wouldn't want to do that personally, in my opinion. But there we go. There's the helmet. I was just watching it. They got touched the helmet, and then it got a little bit physical. Looks like no major punch ups or anything. Although Harvick was the one that decided to get a little bit personal, get a little bit, more words from Elliott. Oh my goodness me, that was quite something, Charlie. That was quite something. But what it does mean, Charlie. Let me look at the standings here, because 16 has become 12 since that race, and it leaves us with these 12. Eric Elmer, Tyler Reddick, Kurt Busch, and Michael McDonald all missed out.
Yeah.
And are out. So it leaves Harvick, Bell, Keselowski, Logano, Bryan, Bowman, Elliott, Busch, Blaney, Hamlin, Truex Jr., and Larson as the 12 drivers that left. After 3 more races, it'll go from 12 to 8. And then it'll go from 8 to 4 to the final 4. So we have Yes, 7 races. I think it's 7 races to go, is it? I think it's 7 races to go, something
Yeah.
like that. And Larson is going to be the one with the most points in the stand. He's very important. I know 57 points don't seem much different between Harvick and Larson, but they matter much for finishing positions and getting a win, most importantly, Charlie. And
I
don't know
think
why
as well.
Yeah,
I think
we
as
go.
well, Zach, I'm not sure if all the drivers still race at the same venue, even if it's the playoffs. I'm not sure it's just the playoff
Yeah,
drivers.
they do. Yeah, they do. They all race for. You don't have to. If you're not in the playoffs, you're just racing for fun now. You're just racing to get the best result you possibly can. But they go to Las Vegas next weekend, under the lights as well, Charlie. That would be good. This is second. They're going to go there for the second time this season, with Carl Larson as the one that is leading the championship.
Yeah, it's going to be a big race next weekend. Just checking what the next race for the NASCAR event is called. I'm just getting it up now for you. And that is South Point 400, next week's race. South Point 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But we're going to stay on NASCAR, though, because there has been big news for NASCAR fans for 2022. And that is the announcement of the warm-up race for the start of the season, the Busch Clash. That has been moved from Daytona to Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. And Zach, what do you make of this new move for the Busch Clash?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Charlie, because they're going to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which has never raced in NASCAR before. It's supposed to be some sort of Memorial Coliseum, as I said, but it's hosted football. It will host the 2028 Olympics, and it's going to host a NASCAR race. It's going to be a 0.5 mile circuit, 0.5, so it's going to be a short track. And it's a very interesting venue, Charlie, I have to say. A very, very interesting venue. I like what I look of it so far. And this is the first time the Busch Clash has taken place somewhere outside of Daytona, very interestingly. It's also a week earlier than because it's going to be the Busch Clash on the 16th, the Gatorade Jewels on the 17th. So it's going to be they're going to have a week's break. And then they're going to go off to the Daytona 500 on February 20th. There's a few changes as well, Charlie. Auto Club Speedway is going to return. They're going to go to Gateway.
Yep.
And there's also, I think, they're moving Homestead from the early rounds to the third final race of the season. Well, the third to last race of the season, rather than round 7 or something like that. And they've moved Las Vegas and Phoenix up, and also Auto Club as well, which is interesting enough anyway. They've also the Texas is going to still host the All-Star Race and Open. What else is in there as well? Very interesting. They've moved around the playoff races. So there's a couple. Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol is now going to be the ones that host the opening 3 of the playoffs. And then it's going to be Texas, Talladega, and Charlotte. Las Vegas hosting Martinsville. Phoenix is the finale. So, yeah. Looks like an exciting calendar.
Zach, I have to say I've looked at some iRacing on board of this track, and it looks quite cool, actually.
It does.
Racing around the stadium that hosted the 1984 Summer Olympic Games. I mean, it just looks amazing. You've got the cauldron in the background. It's going to be a great event, I think. I hope they like the cauldron for the NASCAR race. I'm sure that would be amazing. But yes, guys, please comment down below what you make of the Busch Clash. Do you think it will be a great return to Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum? Please comment down below. Now we're moving on to the Premier League action from the weekend. And Zach, there was plenty of surprises in store, and Liverpool beating Crystal Palace 3-0 probably was one of the biggest games of the weekend.
Yeah, certainly is. So let me go through some of the results over this weekend, because there's some very important results that actually happened in this one, and very important to point out. Let me go. Sorry, just get the wrong screen up. There we go. Was it cancelled? Okay, that's fine. Right, so let me just get through the results. Here it is. And, so they started on Friday. It was Newcastle Leeds 1-1 draw. Newcastle fans not happy. Wolves lost 2-0 to newcomers Brentford. Wolves are struggling a little bit in the opening half of the season. Norwich lost 3-1 to Watford. I suppose they're going to get relegated again, Norwich, this season, like they do every other season. Burnley lost 1-0 to Arsenal. City was held to a draw by Southampton, which was a surprising result. 3-0 for Crystal Palace. 3-0 for Liverpool, excuse me. That's blatantly wrong. I'm doing a Michael Owen there. Aston Villa ended up with a 3-0 win over Everton. That's the first defeat for Rafa Benitez under Everton. And today's results, well, a surprising one. Brighton beating Leicester City 2-1 with some questionable VAR choices. As you could probably tell, I'm not really a happy bunny because I'm support Leicester, and that's not a great result. West Ham nearly won it today. Nearly drew it today. But Martin Noble missed the last-minute penalty and they fell 2-1. And in the later game, which is also known as Net Zero because there was a Sky initiative on today, it was Chelsea's 3-0 victory over Spurs. It's the same old Spurs. And Chelsea looks good. Chelsea look very good, I have to say, Charlie, at the moment. And they're looking very, very promising. And this is the standards at the moment. You can't really tell because it's got five... we've got 5 matches done at the moment. Chelsea are leading from Liverpool, Manchester United, and Brighton, would you believe it or not? What a start Brighton are having with Man City behind the 5th. This is not going to be representative of the whole season, so I'll probably come back to that when we get to match day 10 or something like that. But yeah. So surprising results, I have to say, over the weekend, Charlie. It's been a good weekend. Looking forward to it next.
Yeah. Next weekend's matches, we're not sure. Zach, could you just give us a preview of some of next weekend's matches for the Premier League for all the listeners?
Oh, yes. There's some very exciting matches coming up next weekend. Chelsea take on Manchester City next Saturday for the midday kickoff. That's a very, very big match. It's the repeat of this year's Champions League final. What else is there as well? And on the Sunday, it's North London derby, Arsenal and Tottenham. Very famous rivalry. I expect that's going to be very interesting. Some other matches include Leeds West Ham on the Saturday. Manchester United Aston Villa also on the Saturday as well. And the weekend will finish with Crystal Palace against Brighton, also known as the M25 derby. That's on Monday next week.
Yep, that's all I can say, guys. Stay tuned for the Premier League. That will all be back next week. So yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. But that's the end of your sports news now. I'm now going to move on to In the Spotlight and chatting about something very important in the Spotlight this week is to do with Christmas dinners and turkeys. Because there's been some news of shortages of food in some sectors. There's been a supply chain crisis and shortage of dinners. And Zach, what do you make of this news that was leaked today on the media about turkeys potentially not coming to people's houses?
Well, I don't know whether this is even going to be true or not, Charlie, to be honest, but quite frankly, it's quite extraordinary. There's talk about a gas shortage and higher gas prices to the point where, they might even run out of, turkey cooked off of gas, stuff like that. Chicken comes off the gas. You may even run out of turkeys for Christmas. So Christmas dinners could be cancelled this year. Have we heard this one before where Christmas got cancelled, Charlie? I've heard that one since last year, apparently. I must have missed that. But, yeah, it's quite something, Charlie, to be hearing reports of running out of turkeys and CO2. Here we go. Christmas could be cancelled this year due to CO2 shortage. A major supplier has warned. The prices of gases are going up, by the way. And that means food prices are going up as well, which is causing huge problems for the average consumer. You can see the effects of inflation already, which has gone up to 3.2%, something like that. It's going to be short and temporary in the short. According to the economists, we've heard this in America as well. Basically, inflation is going up everywhere. But yeah, this is a huge problem, Charlie. If people can't even get their turkeys for Christmas, you won't be able to get turkeys from turkeys, which will be very something. But yeah, there is this is a bit worrying for the traditional turkey eater at Christmas.
Yeah, I hope Christmas dinners come this year. As much as I think if we need the family round, Christmas dinner is what you want. You want to have a Christmas dinner. If you don't have a Christmas dinner and you order a takeaway, you'll be like, oh, I've just missed my great Christmas dinner. Oh, that's crazy. Comment down, guys, below what you make of this, because I think this saga will continue for a little bit to come, I think. But I want to move on from that now to something which caught my attention a lot last week. Joe Biden calling the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison the fellow down under in the latest gaffe from the president. Now, Zach, this was a big speech for Biden because this was over a trade deal between the UK and the United States. What do you make of this?
It's actually over a nuclear deal, Charlie, a nuclear submarine deal, which has been agreed by the UK, the US and Australia between Prime Minister Johnson, Biden and Scott Morrison. There's some sort of agreement there about developing nuclear submarines, help Australia with nuclear submarines, in effect to battle China, because obviously China are getting the act of their international developments as well. Joe Biden forgot the name of the Australian Prime Minister and called in the man down under. Good day, mate. He's not the worst gaff in the world. He's had these gaffes before. He's not affected his personal racing. It's just people get so wound up by it. I don't mind a gaff now and then, really, to be honest, if you ask me. I would certainly call Scott Morrison the man down under because he is technically the man down under. He's from the Aussies, which, is down under. So is New Zealand. So, yeah, he's technically right on that term.
Yeah, it's very interesting. In fact, I'm actually going to play for it right now, live on the show.
All right.
This is Boris. This is Joe Biden calling Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison the fellow down under. Have a listen to this.
I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, Val. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister. I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, Val. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm honored today to be joined by two of America's closest allies, Australia and the United Kingdom, to launch a new phase of the trilateral security cooperation among our countries. As Prime Minister Morrison and Prime Minister Johnson said, I want to thank you for this partnership, your vision as we embark together on this strategic mission. Although Australia, the UK and US partnership, AUKUS, it sounds strange that all these acronyms, but it's just a good one. AUKUS, our nations will update and enhance our shared ability to take on the threats of the 21st century, just as we did in the 20th century, together. Our nations and our brave fighting forces have stood shoulder to shoulder for literally more than 100 years. Through the trench fighting in World War I, the island hopping in World War II during the frigid winters in Korea, and the scorching heat of the Persian Gulf. The United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom have long been faithful and capable partners. We're even closer today.
Thank you there to Joe Biden there for that little address there on that nuclear submarine deal, should I say, between the United States and the UK. Now, Zach, what did you make of Biden's address there? Because he did make a slight slip up, didn't he?
Oh, no, not a big deal. But the big deal this week, obviously, Charlie, with that is the actual submarine deal, because the French have actually recalled the ambassadors of the US and Australia, because they seem very upset because they've worked with NATO on this. And they rely on the other European Union to work, with the likes of UK and Australia and the US to basically help with some sort of nuclear development and work with those lot. And the fact is the French are upset that they've gone on their own. So it's caused a big stir up for the French. I believe Macron and Biden are going to have a phone call tomorrow. But yeah, this is upset the French a lot, Charlie, I have to say. I don't get why. I think they're throwing a paddy because they're finding out what global Britain really is. I don't share that sentiment, but there are a lot of conservative voters who probably would. But nevertheless, it's interesting how the UK is turning to not Europe now, but the likes of Australia, America. It's kind of what I expected when, post-Brexit, really, Charlie. They're just showing an example of that. I mean, the French probably can be unhappy as long. I mean, I don't care who we work with as long as they're decent countries. But, yeah, there is clearly... This is basically to rival China, because China is, really developing these nuclear submarines. They're just doing nuclear development overall. They're the industrial leader. Their economy is going to be outpacing everyone. And they will also want to get under, dominate the world in this. And, the rest, like the UK, Australia, and America, are saying, no, you can't be trusted. We're going to develop our own nuclear submarines to, protect our defences. So, yeah, the French aren't happy. The Chinese aren't happy. This is turned out to be a little bit of a... It's like playing Super Mario Smash Bros. Really. It's last man who's standing situation, I think. So, yeah. A lot of problems there to deal out with between Macron and Biden, which are going to have their phone call soon.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on that phone call between France's Emmanuel Macron and President Joe Biden of the United States on that issue. Now it's time for Charlie's good news. Now, a slightly different good news segment now, in that I'm not actually going to be doing the good news anymore now, but except I will be sharing with you one good news story a week that has come out of local newspapers. It could be local newspaper, it could be something that's amazing. And I really want to share with you a positive news story every week. Rather than it being multiple news stories, I'm going to do one news story every week. And I want to talk about universities now, because an Essex university has just offered COVID jabs to returning students. Now, Essex University is to provide an extra support to its returning campuses next month by offering vaccination clinics on its various campaigns. Now, students will be returning to campus after prolonged periods of distance learning since the COVID-19 outbreak last March, but some scientists are worried that the return of large-scale events of freshers could be super spreader events for the virus. However, though, it has been confirmed that some students have actually been getting vaccinated ahead of this article. I will now show you the article, guys, right now on this show, just to give you an idea of exactly what this Essex University, the University of Essex in Colchester, has come up with. And Zach, what do you make of this news story in question?
I think it's fantastic, Charlie. I think it's excellent. This is the way, because as you know, Charlie, younger people are more sceptical getting 2 doses of vaccine compared to, say, the older adult. And these are the group that we need to they need to be targeted to get jabbed, to make sure so that life can return to some sort of normality from them. And this is the way to do it, basically, Charlie. This is definitely the way to do it, by putting up our vaccine clinics, more sites. It's exactly what you need, and doing it at targeting the right type of people as well, Charlie. Universities tended by very young people, really inspiring people, and that who want to enjoy life and want to get a jab. And this is the exact way to do it, to put up vaccine uptake. This is exactly what is needed, Charlie. And that is a good news story of the week. That is definitely so.
Well, just according to this here, a spokesman from the Essex University said the NHS vaccination clinics will run on campus during Freshers' Week to offer both new and returning students their first and second doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. I'm sure that's probably Pfizer or Moderna in that respect. He said, we're supporting our students to get vaccinated in order to protect themselves, fellow students and wider campus community. We will be running NHS vaccination clinics on Colchester, Southend and Loughton campuses in the autumn term during Freshers' Week and Welcome Week to offer students their first or second vaccination. The autumn term for the University of Essex students will begin on Thursday, October 7th, but the university will be hosting an array of events in the run-up to the term, such as a new student night, fresh trivial, and also arrivals parties as well. A spokesman from the university added that they will work together with the NHS to ensure that COVID infections can be kept at a low level. Now, Zach, I have to say this here is a very important point, because obviously the University of Essex is also based up in Southend as well. Do you think somewhere like Southend, with, like, say, for example, might have a lower vaccination rate than somewhere else in the country, do you think that this will help local communities?
Absolutely, Charlie. I think it's everything like this helps local communities, and they're very well needed. It just increases confidence in vaccine uptake. They're especially important, Charlie. They're just so important, and they're needed as well, Charlie. They really are needed. As I said as well, these type of people are less, more likely. The younger people are less likely to get a vaccine compared to, say, the older. And so it's especially important, Charlie. Really, really important.
Yeah, that is. So that's my good news story of the week. We'll do it all again next week, guys. And please, guys, send me your news stories in because I'll only be picking one every week now. And I thought I'd share with you some news on an Essex University that's actually offering COVID-19 vaccines ahead of the new term. Apparently, they're not just that one. I think it's all across the country that are offering them ahead of Freshers Week. So, yeah, it's very, very important. And I just encourage people to take the vaccine as well. I give them personal choice, but I encourage people to get jabbed and to help play your part against stopping the spread of COVID-19. So, yes, that's all I can say on that one. Right now, it's time for Charlie Asks. Now, Charlie Asks this week is going to be a very interesting segment because I'm going to be asking a question that I think is very, very important. And this one is to do with a journalist called Piers Morgan, who, if you might remember, has signed up to Talk TV. And I have a question for you about this, guys, to all the listeners out there. Me and Zach will answer this question live on air tonight. And the question tonight, guys, is that should Piers Morgan be uncancelled after his comment about Meghan Markle earlier this year? Should people trust Piers Morgan as a journalist after making a comment about Meghan Markle? So I'm going to start with my opinion on this, and I think Piers Morgan should be uncancelled because he is someone who has a right to a freedom of speech, has a right to say what he wants to say, and he has a right to an opinion because whatever you like about Meghan Markle or not, people like this should not be sued or any way. And I know Ofcom did take credit. Ofcom did take a swipe at him earlier this year. But the truth is this. I stand by Piers' comments, and I really think Piers had a right to have a view on this. But Zach, what is your opinion on Piers Morgan's comments about Meghan Markle back in March on Good Morning Britain? And also, what is your opinion on him about the future for this journalist?
Well, I think his comments in March, obviously, getting rid of the mental health thing, I don't really see a problem with the comments. I mean, I disagree with him, but that's fine. I'm not going to have a hot hissy fit about it and say, he's right, he's wrong. I don't agree with him. I think he was wrong in that. Oh, well, I did say it was wrong, but I don't do it in such a silly way or OTT way. But I think, the only thing about mental health and stuff like that, which he could have handled much better, he didn't really handle that well. I think it's actually great to see him back on our screens again, which we will be soon. This is obviously a deal we did with Rupert Murdoch, another TV channel Rupert Murdoch owns, coming to our television so he doesn't dominate the press enough as it is. But yeah, he's coming back to Talk TV, a new station. Obviously capitalising on GB News' total car crash since Andrew Neil's left this week. We'll come back to that.
The big resigning for Andrew Neil. Yeah, that was one I forgot to cover earlier. Andrew Neil has resigned from GB News.
It's inevitable, really. It was just so obvious, really, Charlie, what was going on there. But yeah, coming back to Piers Morgan, good for him. He's obviously going to be very free speech. He's going to say what he wants to say. He's going to have people want to debate him, whether he's wrong or not. And it's going to air on here and Talk TV here. It's going to air on Sky News Australia and Fox Nation in the US, which is obviously run by Fox News. So yeah, it's going to be getting quite a worldwide audience for this, Charlie. Very interestingly, I have to say it's going to be very interesting. Talk TV is going to be right leaning, I presume, because it's going to be shown by Rupert Murdoch. What do you expect? But yeah, another news channel launch will be interesting. I think it'll be better than GB News probably in terms of the operations of it, because it won't have all the shenanigans of GB News. It'll have a brand behind it. People recognise it instantly. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting, but good to see Piers back, because as much as I don't always agree with the guy, but I think he's an asset to TV.
And Zach,
so yeah, that's what I think.
And Zach as well, he's a very, very experienced journalist. He's presented life stories on ITV. He's also he also used to be on Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent as well. So he's also been a judge. He's also been a political commentator. I think I'm not sure if he's wrote any articles for like any major newspapers. I think he had a column on The Sun, I think, or something. So he's honestly a very experienced journalist. Do you think Piers Morgan should have credit for, like, obviously when Ofcom eventually didn't take any further action on him and ITV?
Yeah, it'll be, obviously, this will be Piers' format, Piers' idea, Piers doing it the Piers way. He writes for the Mail at the moment, I think, Charlie. He's going to under this new deal. He's going to do a column in the Sun. Very interesting. He's also present true crime documentaries as well, from what I see as well. Very interesting. I mean, he does do this sort of thing for ITV already, but yeah, very interesting to see. It's going to do some true crime documentaries, but yeah, big win for the for News Corporation, for Rupert Murdoch. This will be very interesting. I'm not going to jump out of the gun yet and say whether this TV channel should even be a thing, because we've seen the likes of GB News, which has turned into a right-wing rag hole, basically. I'd rather give it a chance, Charlie. Let's see, it might not be as bad as it feared. I think when I watched GB News, it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse in terms of the journalistic content of it. That went completely downhill, the technical shenanigans.
I thought you'd say Alistair Stewart. Alistair Stewart's on that station. Don't forget him. He's an experienced.
Yeah, obviously he's good. There's just some other presenters that let him down, let the whole station down, and is just, I can't stand it, really.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with me. Hang on, I have a thing deep in my head. I don't know what it is, but do I even have it open? Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, guys. We do appear to have a little technical infringement.
That's all right. I'm back.
Yeah, Zach, I have to say, it's interesting, isn't it, to be honest, what Piers Morgan has to say? Because I'm going to play a video shortly of some of Morgan's comments or Morgan's views on Meghan Markle. But Zach, where do you see Piers Morgan going with his future, really? Do you think he's got a future on Talk UK? Or Talk TV?
Obviously so. Yeah, obviously so. He's just joined it. He's obviously got some sort of long-term future. And I don't think they're going to get rid of him anytime soon there, because it's going to be some sort of free speech sort of show. So they have no intention to get in unless he says something incredibly stupid. But yeah, I can't see him going anywhere for now.
Okay, well, I'm not going to actually play for you a couple of videos now. Not the whole video, but a little clips of a few videos. This is Piers Morgan saying, "I'm sickened after him and Susanna clashed over the Prince Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah Winfrey." This video was filmed earlier in the year. Have a listen to this.
I'm angry to the point of bawling over today. I'm sickened by what I've just had to watch.
Okay, and then people might be upset.
Sorry, you can defend it in a minute. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say.
Okay.
This is a 2-hour trash-a-thon of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen has worked so hard for, and it's all being done as Prince Philip lies in hospital. Mm-hmm. They trash everybody. They basically make out the entire royal family a bunch of white supremacists by dropping this race bombshell without
that phrase.
They didn't name which one it was. They just throw it out there so it could be any member of the royal family. And Harry says, "I'll never say who it was." Well, you better say it fast.
What's the part of the interview that you're referring to?
The bit where they accuse the unnamed member of the royal family. This is the race bombshell that Meghan drops that Harry then talks about. Let's watch. It's odd, though, because you were comfortable about sharing everything else in that interview. But you're prepared to let that bombshell just lie completely unanswered, so that we now have to think it could be any one of the royal family that was apparently racist about the skin colour of your child. I just don't think that's acceptable. They trash Kate. She's taken down. She apparently made poor Meghan cry.
Well,
she trashes her.
yeah,
they trash Prince Charles.
That's in response
They trash
to a question
William.
about the
They trash the monarchy, the institution. And you know what? We're going to bring in Chris Shipp here. Chris, I've got to say, I watched this interview, A, with my jaw dropping like everybody else, but B, with mounting anger, mainly because I could see the way it is already playing in America and around the world. This is a caricature portrait of our...
You met up with her, you knew her.
I knew her briefly.
Right, so we've joked about it on the show.
All that did was so I'm allowed to speak.
Okay, talk.
All that did was inform me that she's a bit of a cut and run.
Right.
Throughout her life, and all her family, her father, her ex-husband, her ex-friend, they've all been cut out of her life, right? And it's an interesting observation that I happen to be one of those people.
An interesting observation.
Let me
I do feel.
Right, can I finish the situation?
You are struggling.
Guys, if we're going to have this conversation,
you've got to let me talk.
I talk.
Right. Can we talk about the programme? It doesn't really matter what I think of Meghan Markle. It doesn't matter whether I believe her or not. What matters is the damage that she is accused of doing to the royal family. And let me ask you honestly, on the issue of race, she has now got the whole of America and the worst of the world, frankly, looking upon the palace, the monarchy, the Queen, everyone in the royal family as a bunch of racists. And it all comes down to two things that she said in the interview. One, is something she didn't hear, but Harry reported back to her, that a senior member of the royal family that wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip, so presumably is either Charles or William, we would hazard a guess, has made a comment to Harry about what colour skin his baby may be if the relationship progresses.
Okay, but there was concern about the way in which that question was asked.
That's my question for you. She said there was concern. Harry didn't say that. And my question for you is this, and it's a straight question I think a lot of people are asking. Because you've been in this position, right? And you've been equally offended.
On the receiving end of that.
Is there a qualitative difference between somebody perhaps innocently saying to you, out of interest, if you have one parent is white, one parent is black, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that question phrased in that innocent, perhaps, way, and somebody doing it in a tone that says, well, how dark is your baby going to be?
Well, I think,
in a derogatory, perhaps racist tone.
Exactly, and there is a difference. But what we're getting from the interview is that it was said in a negative way.
He said that, but he didn't, did he?
Listen, stop separating Harry and Meghan. They are a team, quite clearly, a very strong team. And I do believe that she backs him up and he backs her up.
Right.
So, and like I said, tone and language is everything.
But is there
when it was said,
but let me ask
when it was said to me, the key word was, are you worried?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that to me is
and
racist.
There's a big difference.
That to me is racist.
But that's what she
is
reports.
racist.
Do you think it's racist? This is a legitimate question many people have asked. Is it racist, do you think, if for argument's sake it was William or Charles? Let's not put a name to this person. We don't know. And part of the problem, I know you agree with me about this, it'd be easier if they just said who it was.
Right.
Right? I'll come to that. But is there a difference? If it was said, perhaps in all innocence, right, and they just said, oh, what colour baby might you have, without any suggestion of it being a concern or a worry if it had darker skin, would that in itself, would just the question be racist?
That in itself is fine, but you have to think about how it feels on the receiving end, because what we're speculating is as to how that message...
I don't know how it was communicated.
Right,
what I would say to you is, if it was done as a worry or concern...
We also have to take into consideration how it felt. The other thing that we also have to think about, and I've publicly said this on Twitter, Piers, I agree with you now that I feel that they should have named the person, because all it's led to is all of us asking loads of questions. And I personally am looking at the royal family as to which one could
Who's the racist, yeah.
Who's the racist? But again, we have to also just take a step back. Do you know how much courage it takes to actually speak about racism, to actually call it out? Because I've been in situations where I haven't called out every single bit of racism that's happened to me based on how I've been treated or how it was handled in the past.
Because you're worried about a backlash.
And you're also worried about a backlash. And there will be people that will treat Harry and Meghan differently because they've spoken out.
Okay.
But this is the whole thing. We've got to get comfortable talking about the uncomfortable. And that's why it's important for me and you to have this conversation.
Right, but let's just not make it personal. It's fine.
It's not...
You made it personal. Well, let's move on
you know
from
what?
that.
It's hard because, you know what, we talk personally about people on this show, and we give our opinions on them, don't we? So actually, sometimes it does come back at you. We have to be,
It's fine. It's just the way it was done. We can disagree about that. Let's move on. Well,
Thank you there to Piers Morgan and Alex Beresford for a pretty lengthy debate there on Harry and Meghan. And Zach, what did you take away from those two videos about Piers' viewpoints on the couple?
Whew, wow. Yeah, I think it proves that you can disagree and agree. They agreed on some things. Let's just say that. And then they disagreed. They seem to disagree with interpretations, meanings, blah, blah, blah. That's how it should be done. There was a few talking overs, but that's all right, isn't it? That was fine. I wouldn't say anything too nasty or bad, wasn't it? I think it's good. I don't agree with all of it, but it's fair debate.
I mean, Piers mentioned about the name. There was this unnamed member of the royal family, and he said that Meghan was racist to one of these people, about the skin colour for Archie. In a way, I have to say I do agree with Piers on that point actually, because I think there was a lot of issues with Philip being in hospital, and it was a tough time for them. But for Harry and Meghan, I know when Meghan spoke about mental health, it created backlash. But I felt like in a way, Zach, she was kind of trashing the royal family a bit. And I know that this segment's all about the viewpoints here. We're allowed to give our opinions. I just think for Meghan to do that interview, it's divided the population a lot, hasn't it, across the world?
It has. It certainly has, Charlie. It's caused a lot of debate. There's clearly a difference between dividing America, what America thinks, and what the UK thinks. It's clear in the UK opinion polls just that they support the palace. In America, it's more Harry and Meghan. So there's a big divide on this, Charlie. There's a lot of different opinions on this across the world. And it's, here in the UK, we say we believe the palace. In America, it's the Meghan and Harry. It's a very interesting divide, Charlie.
It is interesting, Zach, because there's been some news. I just want to touch on this now before we finish. That's Charlie asked this week, but I just want to touch on something whilst we finish the show, because I want to stay with Harry and Meghan whilst we're here, because there's been some news of some books that Prince Harry has apparently wrote about explaining about the couple's history, like how they got engaged, how they've moved to the States. And Zach, they're actually starting to get publicised now in the press over in the United States and also around the world. Do you think Harry and Meghan should be publicised in the press, or do you think they should not be?
They can be if they want. I don't really care. I don't mind a bit of Harry and Meghan coverage. I mean, most of the half time it's negative anyway, so of course they're going to publicise it. Whatever the tabloids want, they'll just fuel it further. That's their motivation. They did it with Diana. They will do it with Harry and Meghan, because that's how they'll jolt where they want to jolt. And this is, they don't like them at the moment, so they'll jolt towards that way. So they give them all the publications they want. This will get all the money in the world, whether you agree with it or not. They'll get a lot of coverage, and they will still do whatever they need. And they'll do it for bashing, for praising, for whatever. They will still be a big force in the media for a long, long time, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, Zach. I have to say that. But my final question tonight on this show, and this is one again about the couple. Do you think, with them leaving the royal family, do you think the royal family is in trouble at the moment? Because in the UK, obviously, we've got William, Kate, Prince Charles. They're still and the Queen, obviously, they're still serving members of the royal family. Do you think the royal family should be around? Because do you think for example, there should be improvements to it? Because obviously going forward, the monarchy might change, obviously, in the years to come. What do you think should happen with that?
Yeah, well, maybe they decide they want to diversify the royal family. I don't know whether it would be necessary. I mean, for some people, it looks like the crown needs to, their grand joy. Some people they look out of touch and privileged. I mean, the royal family doesn't bother me personally, if you ask me. I mean, they're a lovely bunch, I think, but I think they've got into a bit of they make their spats very public. I think some of them, but I think their lives should be private. I think we don't need all this media speculation. Of course, everyone they do it for attention. All these people, and there's a lot of sources going around reporting things that may be true and may not be true. But should we change the royal family? I don't know. It's never going to get really changed that much, to be fair. They'll keep the same format, but they'll just diversify it over time, I think, Charlie, let's be honest. So I can't see it happening, to be honest.
I mean, Zach, just before I finish, like, Prince Harry's been a bit political lately. He's been speaking out about, like, the coronavirus and how that's affected the world. What do you make of his comments about, like, vaccine hesitancy and also about how the pandemic has changed the world?
I think there's nothing political in that. I think even if you got the Queen to do that sort of thing, that everyone would praise the Queen for doing that sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I don't think it's political. I think it's genuine. This is talking about getting people to take the vaccine is not political. It's a statement of intent and a statement of help. And you could write this in Kenya, for example, Hattie, or any place that's got very low income, low uptake, and all that sort of thing. You aim it at them, and it needs to be aimed at them, really, to be fair, Charlie. So there's nothing political about that, I think. If you do the school speech out in school children, by the way, nothing political about that, unless you're just saying, the far right, the far left, and all that. That's when you get political. But if you want to say children getting kids' education improvement, don't just outlining, the benefits of it. Nothing political about that. It's a general statement, and I think it's a fact, really. So I don't think talking about the vaccine, getting the vaccine or uptake the vaccine is anything political. I think it's doing a good service, actually.
It's interesting service. I mean, it's interesting with Harry and Meghan's political views. But guys, please comment down below. Do you think Prince Harry's comments on the COVID-19 vaccine were political? Please let me know. I'd love to hear them. And also on the videos that I've just played, what's your reaction to the comments Piers made about Harry and Meghan on Good Morning Britain? And please comment down below. But that's all we got time for tonight. Thank you so much for watching the Charlie Tolhurst Show. We'll see you again next week for the final one of September. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
I like the decision making.
Woo! He went before. All right, take care. Bye-bye.